Welcome to the We Are All God podcast, where the inner journey is simplified. I'm Erin Werley.
And I'm Philip Werley.
And you are more powerful than you've ever imagined. I have something really exciting that I have been downloading over the last week that I'm so excited to talk to you about because I purposely have saved it for this.
Okay, what is it?
Okay. So, you know that I've been going really, really deep with the Arcturians, which are higher dimensional beings, and they've opened me to seeing this deep, deep truth. And it's this. We're all down here wondering why we don't get the instant manifestation power, right? We're God embodied. We get that. We got that. So why in the world don't we get to just like think it and boom, it's right in front of us?
Okay.
All right. So here's the reason. The reason is, well, first of all, oneness. Okay. So oneness means that everyone's thoughts in a way are commingling. Everyone's energies are commingling. And your experience, while you feel that you are contained and sort of independent in your body from everyone else, when you start opening your psychic gifts to experience these things from a higher dimensional viewpoint, you start noticing actually nothing is happening independent of anything else, which means other people's thoughts are coming into your mind all day long, and you actually don't recognize it. In the same way that other people's energies are coming into your energy field and mixing and commingling and changing and adjusting the way that you feel. Okay. Now, when you're at a lower level of psychic awareness, you have no clue this is happening. Even when you start awakening, you still don't have your psychic gifts like ramped up because you're not ready to hold it because it would overwhelm your system. You would be like, what do I do? And it's just too much to hold. So it's a very slow process to activate all of this for our own protection so we don't essentially explode with fear and overwhelm like, oh my gosh, this doesn't feel safe to me. So now I am at the point where I can see all of this happening. I can feel all of this happening. My feedback is very, very quick as well around it. And I can recognize now thoughts coming into my field that are not mine, see them instantly as that's not my thought. Or even sometimes it's images. That's not my image. That's not coming from me. That's someone else. Oh, wow. Now, if we had instant manifestation powers, but all these other things are allowed into our field without us knowing how to move them out quickly and easily, things become very, very dangerous. Essentially, we are not at the level where we can hold the instant manifestation powers because if we don't know that this stuff is all around us and through us, other people's stuff is then going to be created instantly for us. So the inner game that we are all here to play is like going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into awareness of what is ours, what is not ours. And the things that are not ours, how do we move them out? And then moving them out. And the more that you do this, the more that you recognize this, and it's all a game of awareness. How aware are you of the thoughts in your head, the feelings in your body, the images in your mind? And can you pick out the ones that are yours? Can you pick out the ones that are coming directly from God straight into you? And can you pick out the ones that are coming from others? And the better you get at this, the quicker that you are given the power to manifest.
I mean, I get what you're saying about us we're all psychic. We're all more psychic than we realize, and we're like radio receivers. And I can totally see we pick up people's energy and their feelings, and sometimes even their thoughts. I mean, how many times have you just met somebody like, oh, I have a bad feeling about them, or that doesn't feel right?
Yeah.
You know, you're picking up on their vibes. You're like, oh, they have bad vibes. Oh, that's actually a saying, isn't it? Yeah. So I get what you're saying there, but I'm not completely seeing what you mean about that's affecting the level, how quickly our thoughts create.
So it's a protective mechanism so that because all the thoughts that we allow to be part of us, that we don't essentially say, I recognize that this is not self. I recognize that this is not me, and so I move it out. If we aren't at that level, it means everybody else's thoughts are swirling around inside of us. And we can't discriminate. We can't use our discernment to know what is what. And those thoughts are going to be instantly created too. And what if it's the person that's jealous of you? What if it's the person that does not like the color of your shirt and is like, oh, I just wish this thing would happen to this person, or whatever, you know? These things are going to create. Or what if it's the person that doesn't mean to have bad intentions towards you, but simply can't help it because they don't have control over their own thoughts? Everything is an inner game of mental mastery. Everything. And until you're at a pretty good degree of mental mastery, I think it's probably hard to see it. This is not something I could have seen a few years ago. I couldn't have. I'd be like, I don't really get it. And so that's okay. The cool thing about what I bring through is as I speak it, codes are awakening within you, within everyone listening, to begin activating all the parts of their DNA and their energy field to begin to receive this level of understanding. So it's not even about like, oh, I totally get it today. It's about understanding, like, in divine timing, you will get it, because you wouldn't have been led here to this conversation if that wasn't what was meant for you.
So you're saying that if our thoughts created instantly, then we'd be creating other people's thoughts because we're picking up on them. They're coming in our head.
Yeah.
And we're thinking them, but they're not really ours, but we are thinking them. Mm-hmm. So if our thoughts manifested instantly, then we'd be creating all kinds of things that we didn't want because these aren't our thoughts. At the same time, we have our own thoughts that aren't thoughts what we want. Like, well, why am I thinking that? You know, that's not, you know, what I want to make.
That's exactly, I mean, that's the other aspect of it, Phil, is you have to come to a degree of mental mastery before God source, the universe, is like, I trust this person to essentially give them this power to manifest rather quickly.
But aren't our thoughts already manifesting? Like, even if we don't see it instantly, it's still like every thought we have manifests on some level.
Yeah, but so here's the difference between I see it instantly or I see it quickly versus I see it in 5 or 10 years. Okay. So you're right that every single thought that we have creates, manifests 1,000%. But for people that have not practiced mental mastery, they think the thought consciously with their conscious attention, this is what I want to create in my life. This is what I desire. And then the programming, the subconscious thoughts are coming in and thinking all the reasons why you can't have that. And the other people's thoughts, oh, this person's never going to amount to anything, are coming in and creating all the reasons why this can't happen. So if your conscious attention is 2 minutes a day versus however many hours you're awake of subconscious thoughts, that's why it takes so long. So it's essentially just another way to say exactly what I said at the beginning. Either you have awareness over all the thoughts in your head, and you're choosing, I own this thought. This is a thought I choose. This is a thought, whether it's someone else's or it's originating in me, doesn't actually matter. It's not a match for what I choose to create, and so I move it out.
Okay. So it's mastering your subconscious versus your conscious thinking, and being able to shut down your subconscious so you're not thinking those thoughts, negative thoughts, or undoing the conscious thoughts you had, so then your conscious thoughts will manifest, so you're not like counteracting them.
Yeah, but there's a lot more going on as well, right? Like you're led on a journey. When you're ready for this work, you're led on a journey. And it's going to start with simply recognizing these thoughts are mine. I don't like them. These thoughts are coming from somewhere else. I don't like them. These thoughts feel really good. I like them. This is what I want more of, right? And it's going to start with like just moving out the stuff that isn't yours, but you're also going to be led on this journey of like forgiving yourself for all the thoughts that you've had, for all the shit that you've done. You're going to forgive yourself on this journey. And that's going to change everything for you. Now, forgiveness really is the key. It's like the key to unlocking the kingdom within you. And so often you see spiritual gurus talking about forgiveness, but I feel like there's not enough emphasis on what kind of forgiveness this needs to start with. It needs to start with forgiving yourself for all the things you're blaming yourself for, as opposed to forgiving everyone else for hurting you. That's fine. That's good. That's part of the path. But that only comes after you've forgiven yourself. You have to start within with these things, and then you move it outward. If we start outward, hoping that'll change within, we're just continue to be brought more lessons. But yeah, so it's like there's different stages, and can you recognize that? And this is also why it's so important that we're using discernment, our own inner guidance, inner knowing, to know when a lesson is right for us, a spiritual lesson, and when a lesson is right for someone else, but not right for where we are right now on our path. Because I don't know if have you noticed that there's like literally 15 billion different spiritual tools, spiritual things to do. Have you seen that?
I've heard of quite a few. You
Like
show me a lot of them.
It's really like
I've been exposed to quite a few.
It's kind of like a microcosm of universal mind. Like if you look at all the spiritual tools that are available to us, it's like universal mind exploded and here's 15 billion spiritual tools. And so just like when we understand that limitless possibilities exist for us, but the only way to experience things is through making choices with our discernment from a limitless possibility universe, what do we desire to experience? It's the same thing with the spiritual tools. Okay, from 15 billion spiritual tools, and I've counted. From 15 billion spiritual tools, which one is right for me in this now moment? And recognize that that might not be something that stays with you for the rest of your life. It may be, it may not be. And that reminds me of tarot cards. I had a huge journey with tarot cards over the last few years. At first I was like guided, you don't need this. And I was like, yeah, I really like this. It's fun. I enjoy it. And I mean, they're super great. They're super useful. But then eventually I was guided, okay, now you've gone beyond this, right? And it's like I really, really embraced them in that season. But then when the guidance was, okay, now you put them away. Now you don't need them anymore. I was like, okay, I embrace that as well, right? So it's sort of like, can you go with the flow, where you're led, what spiritual tools you need?
When you talk about forgiveness, like it makes a lot of sense because like how are you going to forgive others if you can't forgive yourself? It really has to start with you first.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think it's so important because we all hold blame before we do healing forgiveness work, we all hold blame for ourselves for the big traumas in our life. And we might not recognize it. And that's, again, where increased awareness and a practice daily to bring yourself increased awareness is so important. But we might not recognize that we're actually blaming ourselves and telling ourselves stories like, if I would have done this instead, maybe this wouldn't have happened, or maybe this would have stopped, or maybe this person would not have noticed me, and then we wouldn't have gone down this horrible path that was so painful, right? If I had taken this action, everything could have been different. We think from an unhealed standpoint that we are simply like the victims of this person who created this trauma in our life. But what we're actually, in reality, having space from that situation, we are actually the victims of our own not recognizing that we're blaming ourselves and need to forgive ourselves. Like, that's what's actually real and true. Because in most cases, the person or people that created this trauma earlier in your life, you are no longer around them. They're no longer thinking about you. Now, that's not always true, right? There's some instances where this person is still thinking about you, and then that's another conversation. But if they're no longer thinking about you, then it's all about you forgiving yourself and recognizing where you're holding self-blame.
Well, it's also, goes both ways, because you need to have those epiphanies where you realize, well, oh my gosh, I actually created this, because you can just go around blaming everybody. And then there's a certain point in your enlightenment where you start to realize, well, it's not really everybody else. I played a part in all this, like I could have stood up for myself. I could have, listened. A lot of them, I should have listened to myself. Like my gut was telling me and I didn't listen to that. Yeah. And that's why this stuff happened, So those are important lessons that you need to have. You need to recognize them. But at the same time, then once you have them, you have to move beyond that and actually forgive yourself.
Yeah.
So that you can move forward, not recreating that. Because it's always, if you don't forgive yourself, that means it's still running somewhere in the back of your mind on autopilot. It's still there. You haven't let it go, and if it's still there, you're still thinking about it, it means you're kind of creating that.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And I think it's so important what you're saying about integrating the lessons, because that's the only way to stop the circular cycle of that lesson being brought to you. So how I teach forgiveness is this. When you recognize where you are blaming yourself for something, like you said, if I would have stood up for myself, this wouldn't have happened. And I can look at all the instances in my childhood where I was severely bullied and I shrunk down like a little turtle going into its shell, right? Instead of throwing my shoulders back and saying, back the fuck up. You don't talk to me like that. I don't accept that. I'm not interested in that. Get out of my way. Had I done that, those people would have backed up. They would have been shocked. They would have had no clue what was going on. But I was not in my power then. I did not know then what I know now. And so the process that I go through and that I teach others to go through looks like this. First, asking to understand the lesson that you're meant to learn from that trauma. What is the lesson that I'm meant to learn? You can journal on this. You can simply wait for it to download through you, because if you ask for it consistently on a daily basis, eventually it will come through for you. It will come through faster if you're more active about it and doing some journaling. But if you just set the intention every day, I want to understand the lesson that I'm meant to learn from that situation. And this can be really triggering and painful for people. This is deep work. because it's all of a sudden taking the blame you have been throwing at the other person or people. And you're instead saying, I understand that I have a degree of responsibility in this. Like you said, that I created this from not knowing what I was meant to know. So this is like the process of learning. It's the idea that Earth is a school, right? And so we want to ask to receive this lesson. And then once we understand what the lesson is, say it's, I needed to stand up for myself, right? Then we ask to have that lesson integrated within us so that we do not have to repeat those same patterns and lessons again in the future. So integration just looks like taking the energy signature of whatever it is and making it a part of your system. And your system is you complete and whole as a being who is an energy body, energy field, a physical body, and a mind. So just allowing that lesson simply with your intention to integrate through all the layers of your system. At this point, then, it's time now to say, I forgive myself for not knowing then what I know now. Then we say, I release this situation and mean it. Mean that you don't have to hold this anymore. The reason things are in our mind, memories, they replay over and over and over and over again is not to torture us or to bring up the trauma again or to remind us how sucky we are. The reason these things replay in our mind over and over again is because you are psychic. This is the universe, God's source within you, showing you what you need to heal and clear to bring in the manifestation of who you are meant to be on earth. Okay, that's what a memory is. A memory is not a memory. It's something to heal. Or in some cases, it's a memory of something beautiful and wonderful that you have consciously locked in that you can then access again. But all memories are coming straight from universal mind. And like you're just accessing the quantum field. And I love the confusion around manifestation because it's so funny to me how people think that they're supposed to think positive thoughts all the time. And if anything negative comes to them, they're supposed to push it away, which goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's like, no, if you're creating this manifestation, then you have all the thoughts of the reasons why you can't have it. It's not actually for you to push away. It's for you to be like, let me write those down so I can go through the process of figuring out why I think that, why that's part of my subconscious, forgiving and releasing and integrating the lessons so that that stuff's no longer shown to me. It's you're psychic. The universe is showing you what is blocking you from holding that vision. That's it. So anyway, you're downloading and integrating the lesson. You're forgiving yourself for not knowing then what you know now. Then you are releasing the entire situation, just moving it out of you, moving it out. You're sending gratitude to God, source, the universe, for bringing you this lesson, right? And then you are sending love to that version of you in the past, to you now, just bathing yourself in love and acceptance.
It's interesting. I was going to ask you to go through the steps to forgiving yourself, and then you just did it. So you picked that up. You read my mind. I was like, oh, I don't have to ask that after all.
That would have been such a good question.
Yeah. Well, you went right into it. So
okay. Yeah. Good.
Like, oh, she's
good.
Right. Remember that time we had that wooden puzzle that we couldn't solve? It was like unsolvable.
Yes.
It was the most impossible puzzle ever. And we knew I was like one or two piece turns away. I couldn't figure it out for the life of me. And then finally you went and got the sheet and looked at what the puzzle was supposed to look at. And the moment you looked at it, you're like, oh, I know what he's missing. And then that moment I was like, oh, it's this piece. And I solved it. Like the moment you looked at that and saw the solution, it was in my head. I was like, that can't be a coincidence.
No, there are no coincidences.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool. We've had so many cool moments where we have, like, the veil has lifted and
Yeah.
we've been shown how things really, really operate. Like that time not too long ago when you were like so miserable and upset about something. You were just so, so low. And I was sitting on the bed doing something, and you came and you lay down on the bed and you're just like, I'm just miserable. And I was in like a really good mood. I was feeling incredible. And within 2 or 3 minutes, I was like laying down. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so miserable. And you just hopped up out of bed. You're like, I feel incredible. I don't know what's going on. And you like hopped off and you were running off to do something. And I was just like, what just happened? Our energy fields literally just switched.
Yeah,
they
flipped.
Flipped.
That was crazy.
And I called you back in and I was like, did you see what just happened? And you're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, and then we talked about it and you're like, oh yeah, that just happened.
As soon as you pointed it out, I was like, oh, like, yeah, you got a good point. I was all depressed and now I feel great.
Yeah, it's like we do not live in the world that we think that we live in.
There's a lot more going on under the surface that people don't realize.
Yeah. That reminds me of, okay, so Maddie, our daughter, is 6. And we were playing a game, Maddie and I, the other day, and maybe Leo, who's a 4, may have been playing with us. I can't remember. But anyway, she was saying, I hope mommy loses because I want to win. I hope mommy loses because I want to win. And I was like, oh, Maddie, let's talk about this. Because the things that you hope for someone else, those are going to come back to you, right? So even if these kind of thoughts create you winning right now, what you're actually like sending out and broadcasting to God and the universe is that you want people to lose. And so if you continue that, you're going to be brought lessons where you lose things over and over and over again, so that one day you recognize, oh, I shouldn't have wishes for other people to lose. And so like, that's what the idea of karma is, right? What you send to other people will be brought back to you. It's not actually a punishment. Like, I think a lot of people look at karma as like, this is a punishment. No, it's not. It's the universe recognizing what lesson that you need so that you come into wholeness with who you really are. Because your whole being, your higher self, who you really are, that version of you is like stunningly amazing and badass. And you can't hold these lower thoughts, energies, actions, intentions, and be who you're meant to be. You can't. So you have to receive the lessons that will make you release those lower things. So we talked about it. And at first she was like really hesitant. She's like, but I want you to lose so I can win. And I'm like, yeah, but the more that you send that out, the more it comes back to you. And she eventually started to see how that made sense. And she's really interesting. She has been of her own volition wanting to read One Truth, One Law, I Am, I Create every night before bed. And she's just at the age where she can start really like asking some really good questions. And it's been really, really a fun process, because I see some children like on the internet, like on TikTok and stuff, like they're literally channeling angels and God and things. And that is so cool. Now, our kids have so many awesome gifts activated, but really like channeling the greater universe is not one of the gifts that they have activated yet, right? So to see her like opening of her own volition and asking questions and getting curious, it's really cool.
Yeah, I see her on the couch with you every night.
Yeah. And she has so many questions.
It's really cute. Listen to her.
Yeah. And then she teaches Leo about it, and then they
Oh, that's adorable.
and then they as they're falling asleep at night, they're talking about like what they're creating and stuff, and it's some pretty cute stuff. Yeah,
their creations are pretty adorable. Remind me what what the original thing was. It's about why our thoughts don't manifest instantly.
Yeah. And it's for our own protection because we have not become mental masters yet. So we are not ready to hold that level of creative ability.
Now, let me ask you this. What if you did have that creative power instantly and you didn't have to work for it and learn how to do it? What would that look like?
I actually can't conceptualize that because I see everything about how the quantum field works. And to come into the reality, this dimensional reality we're in, which is really a flow between 3 and 5D right now. I mean, we're going much higher here on Earth, but currently we're in this flow reality that is throughout the day constantly, and I'm hearing between 6D as well. So flowing between 3 and 6D throughout the day. And at this reality, there in this dimensional reality, you are going to be born into a body that is very cluttered with all of these thoughts and energies of so many others. So it's like God, source, the universe would not do that to you. Mm-hmm. Put you, so it's like, this is the school you picked for this incarnation. So you're not going to be punished by having everything you're experiencing here at once manifest instantly. Like that would be a punishment. You think, and so many people think that would be like the most amazing blessing ever. I would win the lottery on day 1, hour 1, minute 1, and I'd be set. Not understanding that you're not here. That's not why you chose this reality. Like, the truth is, your soul was like, ooh, that juicy reality down there is perfect for learning X, Y, and Z lessons through lots of painful traumas. And your soul's like, I'm not afraid. Your soul is a total badass. And the idea that like our souls need to heal is not accurate. Our souls are incredibly bright, powerful lights. They are the stars in the sky. They are incredible. They are huge. They're who you really are. 1 degree from God. Oh, that's something. Oh, it's so cool because I actually wanted to talk about this today. So this is going to be an awesome conversation. Okay. So anyway, in answer to your question, like, God would not do that to you.
Okay.
Often people think like, is God punishing me? Why is life so miserable? Why don't I have more of the things I want? God is protecting you because you don't have mental mastery yet. And you came to this reality to, like, that's the ultimate lesson. Can you become a mental master? Can you be thrown into an incredibly difficult situation where you aren't aware of your own gifts and your own power and find your way back to them? Can you?
So I'll ask you, what's the whole point of that though? Like, why is it important that we come here and learn these lessons?
Well, okay, that's a good question. Let's talk about what I want to talk about that will lead into that. So remember that question.
Okay.
In case I don't remember it. Okay. So we are God embodied and we are a soul embodied. So what does that mean?
You tell me.
This is actually in my programs like Quantum Lightwork Academy or the Ascension portal. Like, this is actually my most frequently asked question. What's the difference between my soul and God? And if we can understand this, it really, really, really takes everything to the next level of our journey. It's like we're integrating one of the major lessons if we can understand this. So everything is God. God is the top of the totem pole, and that's who you really are. You are God embodied. God, God's light, God's thoughts, and God's creative power are what animate you and give you life. Without these things, you are dead. You are God. Now, when God started creating physical realities, God just put itself into bodies and went around instantly manifesting, which caused all kinds of problems. And so and one of the big problems, and there were many, but the one I will speak about right now, is the fact that there was no point to any of it, except God's desire to have experience. You see, God is the part of you that wants to have experiences, that wants to be, to sit in silence. These are all desires of God, because God needs nothing, has no needs. So God likes to have experiences and likes to sit and simply be. But God recognized, okay, something's missing from this equation. I can come into all of these bodies at once, but as I do that, all of these bodies know that they're all me. I know that there's no ability to connect with another because everything is me. So God's like, we're going to try something else called souls. And these souls are going to have a purpose, a mission, a reason for being, a need. And this is the key. God within you has no needs. Your soul has a need, a purpose, a reason for being. So each soul that God creates has a specific mission. And it will go through many, many incarnations, lifetimes, learning the lessons that it needs to learn and integrating them within so that one day it can accomplish its actual mission. This isn't bad or wrong or anything. It's just how the game is set up. And the sooner that you can recognize that everything is set up as a game, the sooner you can step outside of it. Because it's all a game. Enlightenment, it's a game. So, the part of you that feels a drive to make a change in the world, to do something that makes an impact, that makes the world better than it was, that helps other people, all of these things. God knows none of these things are needed because everything is God and everyone will be fine. And one day you will die and you return to wholeness, oneness, and God again. Nothing bad is actually happening. But your soul has this drive to create change. And it's part of how the universe expands. So your soul is the part of you that's like, I want to do something. I want to do something. And like for us, that's creating what we've created here, publishing the books, right? Making the courses, making this podcast, going out and sharing the message. Everyone's soul has a unique message. Going out and sharing the message that's in our soul. That allows us to embody our higher self. It allows us to embody our soul because the truth is your soul is having multiple incarnations at once. And by multiple, I mean a whole crap ton. But it's going to be embodied in the body and incarnation that is most conscious and most aware. And that is essentially moving out all the shit that is not who it is and calling in its highest truth. That's where your soul's focus will be. So as I speak right now, I'm embodying my higher self or my soul. And if I choose to scroll on social media or watch TV, which I don't ever really do, but if I were to choose that, then all of a sudden my soul would most likely move and go to a different incarnation and embody there, or simply sit quietly in universal mind and wait. The more awareness we have, the more embodied we are in our soul. So enlightenment can get very, very confusing because you've got half of the masters telling you, just be in the now moment. Mm-hmm. Just meditate all day long.
You hear that a lot.
Yeah.
It's just about being in the moment, and you just meditate, and you don't create anything, you don't do anything, just sit there.
Yes. Because if you're fully in the now moment, you're never actually creating your future, which is, that's a choice. So then the other camp is, and there's a lot of masters teaching this as well, you need to be doing all the time to bring your purpose forward. So that means that can look like burnout and exhaustion for some people, that the only way to make an impact on the world is just be going hard all the time, bringing forth the message that you're here to bring forth and just pummel the world with it, right? So neither of these is actual mastery. Both of these are opting out of the game. It's opting out. Actual mastery is holding both aspects of who you really are at once, which means your God self and your soul. So at once, I actually mean on a daily basis, because it's very difficult to hold them both at once. But that means recognizing, okay, when is your soul calling you to bring forward something that is creating, both for your future and for the people that are meant to be impacted by it? And when is God within you calling you to just be? So that looks like time every day just being, and time every day being directed by your soul. That's actually like doing the thing. That's what we're here for.
So you're saying we need a balance.
Yeah. And it's not like this perfect balance where it's got to be 6 hours being and 6 hours in soul creation time, because it's your soul that's like creating stuff, right? Because again, God has no needs. So balance might look like 20 minutes being and 8 hours creating. It doesn't really matter. It looks like, are you following something that feels good for you? And that's like the biggest thing, and has been one of the most hard lessons for me the last few years, is recognizing like it gets to be so good that I'm literally standing here saying, I cannot believe this is allowed. I have said that so many times recently. I cannot believe this is allowed. I cannot believe this is allowed. I cannot believe it is allowed for me to have a life that is so perfectly formed to being everything that lights me up and makes me feel so good. Holy cow, I cannot believe this is allowed. And you find this by following your own inner knowing and recognizing that your soul has a unique path that's perfect for you. And like I say this all the time, but it's because it's so important that other people who have found their path, like you are not meant to follow their path exactly. That's the path for their soul. You might be meant to take chunks of what they have done on their path, but you're never meant to copy someone else's path. That's only going to bring you to more lessons.
I think we touched on that last episode.
Yeah. Well, I talk about it all the time. I can't stop talking about that.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the big things I'm here to bring forward. And it was like, I've integrated that lesson, but I didn't used to know that. I didn't get it. I didn't know that. So yeah, I will talk about that all the time. And it's a lot of people that come to me and do my courses and my classes, like they don't know that yet. And I have to let them know when they're struggling in week 3 or week 18 and saying, I can't, for some reason, I feel like there's a big block. Can you move the block out? It's like, no, it's not a block. It's your soul saying, stop. This specific lesson is not meant for you. Like when you're doing QLA with me, Quantum Lightwork Academy, for 6 months, like, no, not every single thing in there is going to be perfect for you. That's good. You'll learn discernment. You'll go deeper into your own inner knowing, because I, unlike 99% of other course creators who believe that you have to follow them step by step exactly to a T or it won't work for you, I know the exact opposite is true. That you are here to learn to trust yourself so deeply that you know when a lesson is meant for you, and you also know when to say, this one isn't right for me, and so I leave it on the table. And that's okay. A lot of people are holding a lot of guilt around this, though. And it comes from all the programming that we had in public schools. And that programming looks like,
There's only one right way to do things.
and you have to do it exactly the right way, or you don't get a good grade and you're not a good kid, right? There's a huge program around how you do academically determines if you are a good or bad person, which is literally nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, they're judging kids by like their grades and stuff. And it's really, that's got to be rough.
Yeah. Now, Maddie's going to a private Montessori school, and they do not do grades there, which I really like.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And like, the truth is, like, we don't want our kids to be programmed, right? We don't. None of us do. But even we found the best school we could find in our area. And even then, like, yeah, she's being programmed.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what schooling is. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, but it's like, what program are you getting? You gotta pick.
Yeah. What was the question you asked earlier?
I asked, what was it? What's the point of us coming here to learn these lessons? Why is it so necessary that we learn these lessons? You know, if we're God embodied, God knows everything, God is fulfilled. Why do we have to come here and learn these lessons? Why is that important? That was the question. Yeah.
So, right. God has no needs. Okay. So God doesn't need to come here to do anything. That's not why this was created. Okay. This game is created for your soul to attempt to win the game that your soul has been tasked with. Okay, so we tend to look at it from our perspective of sitting here in the game. It feels like something's being done to us. Like perhaps we're not being let in on all the secrets. And why doesn't somebody give us sort of the roadmap to figuring all of this out? But this is really a lower level perspective of, this is all real and this all matters. And the higher up you go in your level of consciousness and perception, the more that you see that none of this matters. And I know on the human level, that's like a really hard pill to swallow, because yes, we do need to purchase food, purchase shelter, right? We need to find community. We need to take care of ourselves as a human. So it's a hard pill to swallow when somebody like me comes along and says, this isn't real. This is understanding that and accepting it despite the human reality is the key to freeing yourself. That's the key, is accepting that you do not have to live in this cage that you were raised in. We were all raised in a cage. Have you heard the story of putting two, what are the little bugs that jump really high? Grasshoppers. Okay. So you put two grasshoppers in a jar and you put a lid with holes on it. And these grasshoppers were wild grasshoppers. Okay. And so they're jumping and they're hitting the top all day long.
Okay.
Okay. They have a baby, cute little baby grasshopper. Oh my gosh, it's so adorable. Okay. And it is not jumping to the top. It jumps less than the top. One day, the lid comes off. Mom and dad jump out. Baby doesn't even try.
Doesn't know it's a possibility.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We were born and raised in a cage. Okay. So the way to get out of the cage is, first of all, to know that you've been in a cage. And second, to choose to step outside of it. And you do that by choosing to embody who you really are. Now, who you really are does not feel safe. Who you really are feels scary as fuck, because who you really are says things and does things that other people are very uncomfortable with. They don't understand that because that's not proper cage behavior.
Yeah.
Like, that's not okay.
You're not being politically correct, you know. You're not following all the rules.
Yeah, you better follow the rules. Just stop. Just stop. All of it. Stop it. You can't find who you are if you believe you live in a cage. So you got to first change your mindset. And you do this simply by saying, what if it's possible that I could have a better life, a life where I don't feel trapped, where I don't feel like I'm stuck, just making sure that I do stay in the cage so that everything doesn't crumble around me. What if it's possible that my life could get really good, that I could feel like I'm embodying who I really am, like I feel no longer trapped, like I feel free? Because this is available to you. Goodness gracious, a few years ago, we were so trapped. We were so in the cage. Like we were all caged up. We had locked the door. We were very comfortable in that cage. And it's funny because comfortable to us at the time was like really miserable in so many ways.
Breaking out of the cage is scary, though.
Oh my gosh. It takes so much courage. So much courage. And it's like the first initiation step into higher levels of everything you desire is trusting that the universe is going to have your back, even though there's no physical evidence yet to bring that forward for you.
Yeah, you have to trust. You have to move forward, trust. And the more you trust, the more you take action based on what your guidance is, the cooler the results will be. Yeah. Yeah, and you'll start to see the results.
Yeah.
What is the point of why do we need these lessons? Why is that so important to God that we come here and learn these lessons?
Oh,
you know?
God does not care at all if you learn the lessons.
Okay.
God loves you unconditionally. God thinks you're the coolest ever. God knows you're him. Like God doesn't care if you learn the lessons.
Okay.
That I think.
And why is it important to us? Why is it important to our souls? Like, what's the point of all this? Yeah.
So our souls have this mission, this homing beacon within them that's like everything is pulsing towards that mission. So God is like just totally relaxed, totally laid back, totally chill. God doesn't give a fuck. Your soul, that's that part of you that's like, oh, I got to do something. I got to make a change. Something has to happen here. Okay. Your soul has a purpose, a drive, an inner drive. God does not. It's not coming from God. It's coming from the creation God put in place, just like all of the astronomy spins in the sky. Okay. Spinning in the sky around us. Okay. God created that. Right. And now it just moves. Okay. God doesn't recreate that every day. God's not like, okay, I got to make sure that these things move here today. It's the same thing with the sun rising and setting, right? God set that up one creation. God's not be like, let me make sure that creation works right. It's just set up and is moving. Okay. God's not doubting whether or not that's going to keep popping up. And God's like, it's good. I did it. I'm done. Right. We're all running. These are all called blueprints. They're energetic and mental blueprints stored in universal mind. Okay. We each have a blueprint for this incarnation, an overarching blueprint for our soul. So God created a soul by creating a blueprint, an overarching sort of pattern, right? So essentially, this soul's goal is this. It's Z. Okay. And A through Y are all of the lessons this soul will need to integrate to get to Z. It's the game board for this soul. Okay. Now, this soul could actually do it in one lifetime if it decides to become a total badass. Okay. But if it doesn't, if it decides, and you become a total badass by becoming more conscious, by becoming a mental master. Okay. So if this soul's like, I'm really cool with the video games and the TV and the social media and the boxes of pizza and the whatever else that are available in this incarnation. So screw you, blueprint and life purpose and soul mission. I'm cool with the pizza. Then it's going to take you many lifetimes. Okay. But if you're like, I choose, even though I can't yet see the evidence that I am here to become a mental master, then this can be your lifetime. You can go to Z in this lifetime. Okay. So it's all choices. It's all choices. Some of us are like, I really like the scenery here on planet 123. I'm just going to be and enjoy the scenery here. Okay. Or it's like, no, I feel that this is the lifetime where I'm going to get to Z as a soul. So that's what I'm going to do. It's all choices. But
why is there a Z? But why is it?
So that you're not bored as fuck. Okay. God, the only reason the physical world was created was for God to have a separate experience, a new experience. Okay. So you're looking for a deeper meaning that doesn't exist.
So just
this was created for the heck of it. Okay. Imagine you're God in universal mind. And everything's totally awesome. And you're just mentally creating all these thought bubbles and you can see them and they're so cool. But you're like, oh, I wonder if I can create something else, something where there's physical experiences. I don't even know what that means, but let me make it up. Oh, poof, there it is. Okay. Now let me go down there. Okay. Well, that wasn't that much fun because it was just me down there again. Well, let me create little characters or avatars that don't know they're me. That will be more exciting. Oh, this is much more exciting. Let me do this all over the place. Let me create tons of worlds like this. This is awesome. I'm having so much fun now. God is essentially a teenager with a video game that it's creating. We are thinking because God is on a vibrational level that is so much higher than us, we think it must be something deep and esoteric and mysterious. And we get lost in that. It's not true. God is a creator. Creating is fun. It's enjoyable.
It's true. So let me paint this scenario for you. So let's say we got a bunch of people sitting around a table and we're playing a board game. Let's say we're playing Monopoly, right? And we're all trying to win this Monopoly game. And then an alien comes in and goes like, okay, well, what's the point of this? Why are you trying to win? And we're all like, what do you mean? It's just because.
Yeah.
You're like, and when somebody wins,
well,
it's like, okay, it's over.
Normally, when you're taking out Monopoly, you've got an empty 3 or 4 hours, right? With nothing looming in front of you. Okay, you're filling time. That's what this is. God is creating something to experience.
But the experience is the point of it. Like the game is, there's no point to winning it because you don't get anything. But the point is to play the game.
Right. No, so God loves you and knows you're a total badass, no matter if you lose forever or if you win in a lifetime. There's no prize, there's no award. We are all God embodied, all of us. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But fulfillment, that feeling of like, I accomplished what I'm here to accomplish. I feel good. That does come from following the path of your soul, not from watching TV and eating pizza boxes. I mean, do people eat boxes?
We know what you meant.
So if you are not moving in the direction of your blueprint and your life path, there's an empty feeling inside of you.
Okay.
It would be like playing Monopoly, but you say, you know what? I'm not going to buy any of the things, any of the properties. I'm just going to roll and I'm going to go around the board.
Okay.
You're not actually playing the game, are you? You're just kind of there. You're just being. I'm going to roll when it's my turn, but I'm not going to buy anything.
I think my daughter did that last time we played. She's like, I don't want any of the properties. So, I was like, okay.
And what happened? She lost.
Yeah.
She lost. So that's, and that's fine. That was the experience she chose to have. But then she lost. Now, I have to tell you though, Phil, you have to be at a certain level within yourself to hear this and not want to scream.
Okay.
Because the average person would hear this, and if they didn't immediately discount it as the ramblings of crazy people, they would feel so angry and so much rage for all the trauma they'd experienced for essentially no good reason.
Right.
You mean God did this to me because it's just a game? Most people aren't ready to hear this. So they are much more interested in like ideas like organized religion, right? That tries to give you these answers that are like beautiful and lovely and peaceful, as opposed to bringing you the truth. Now, the truth will set you free. That's the thing about the truth. It might really piss you the fuck off. It might trigger you so bad that you want to scream and never listen to the person that brought it forward.
You want to upset somebody, tell them the truth.
Yeah, that's the truth.
I mean,
yeah,
you watch them.
That's for sure.
They go off the rocker.
That's for sure. And like full disclosure, that's been me. I can get really upset if somebody brings me the truth that I didn't want to see, that I wasn't aware of. The truth is essentially expanding someone's awareness, right? To help them see something that they did not see. And that can set me off, but it also expands me every single time, right? So somebody like the things that I bring forward, they're not for, in general, somebody who's like newer to their path, because people that are newer to their path tend to really want to be like coddled and held in this really loving light. And like the truth is, when I was new to my path, I needed that, right? And when I didn't receive it, I felt really, really lost.
Yeah.
But like there's some people that are newer to their path that can hold this level. But
well, you knew you can't hold that much,
Yeah, well, that's true, because what you can hold energetically, emotionally, mentally, it expands as you expand vibrationally. Like there's energetic containers within you. And when you are full of everything else, all the noise that most people are full of, there's no room to hold the new understandings. And so that's why a daily practice, again, is so important, to create space and expansion within you to hold all the things. But anyway, when I get triggered, even though I often will get very upset in the moment, I'll be so grateful an hour later. Be like, well, thank goodness it's often you. I'm like, I'm so upset you said that. Why'd you have to say that? And then an hour later, I'll be like, I'm so sorry. You were right. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, that could happen.
You're much better with like when I like, you're just so calm. If I like say something triggering to you, you're just like,
am I?
Yeah. Well, I think in general, yeah, you'll be like, I don't fully understand this yet, but I'm willing to think about it. versus I'm like, roar.
That sounds like me, yeah.
But I mean, for both of us, I mean, it really is a testament to how much our awareness has expanded that we might be upset for a little while, but we will quickly integrate it and be willing to look at it, right? And like that wasn't me when I was younger. That was not me at all. It was like, this person's being mean, right? And
I think it was more than you than you give yourself credit for, more than a lot of people that I met.
You mean when I was younger?
When I met you,
Yeah.
you were far more open-minded than a lot of the girls I met.
Well, I guess that's true. I mean, I always felt incredibly different from everybody because everybody else in the world just seemed, these were just the people that were being brought to me, right? That was where my path was at the time. I always felt so different because everybody else seemed to have very closed-mindedness. Like their opinions were formed and they weren't interested in looking deeper and seeing more. And I just felt like I just didn't understand it. I was like, it's almost like machine-like behavior, right? Like a non-NPC character, non-player character, where it's like the machine is operating the character instead of a consciousness.
Well, is it that theory that like a lot of people out there you interact with are actually NPCs? You know?
Yeah.
I can see where that idea comes from.
Well, I think in a way it's super accurate because if we're not giving our conscious attention to things, we essentially are an NPC character. Like if it's your subconscious running the show 95% of your day, which is the average for most people, that's NPC world. That is not a conscious, it's just not.
And it'll let somebody else do the thinking, let the media do their thinking for them and everything like that.
Yeah.
So it's like they're not really thinking for themselves. So it's like, if you're on that subconscious NPC setting, you're really open to being, somebody else choosing your settings.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us for the We Are All God podcast, with new episodes dropping every Sunday morning. And remember, you are more powerful than you've ever imagined.